You've been hearing about the F3 group for a lot this week, and people have been asking me, well, what's the Feed Innovation Network? And the group had decided that it would be a good time for somebody to get up here, specifically me, and tell you about some of the resources that F3 and the Feed Innovation Network has put together. And the main resource is the website, f3fin.org, as you can see here. And I'm going to go through and show you some of the resources that are available. And the goal of the Future of Fish Feed and the Feed Innovation Network is it's a collaborative effort between NGOs, researchers, private partnerships to try to move alternative feeds and new ingredients forward at a faster pace. And this is usually happens through better communication, which, we're still there. Better communication, which is what we hope to do with this website. So I'm going to show you a series of screenshots. We thought about trying to do a live feed of the website, but that gets too complicated for me. And the Feed Innovation Network, we want to support the innovation and adoption of alternative fish feeds. We want to connect ingredient suppliers, aquafeed buyers, and fish farmers to support feed innovation, which is basically what this whole meeting's about. And we hope everybody gets to meet each other. But then if you look along the top of the website, up here, there's F3 suppliers, open formulas, evaluation, resources. I'm going to go through those rather quickly and show you some of the information that you can get. So if you click on F3 suppliers, you have this drop-down menu that has F3 ingredient suppliers and then this fin alga database. And what brought this about is I was being questioned in the group, what have you done with microalgae? How about macroalgae? And I said, I can't find them. I call around and I just can't find a good supply. Next thing I know, Steve Cunningham, puts together a really nice spreadsheet that has suppliers, prices, genus, species, where it's raised, and that can be downloaded. Can be downloaded right here. And on open formulas, the idea here is that a lot of people are still saying that you need to have so much fish meal in the feeds of this species or that species. So we wanted to provide formulas to anybody who's interested for specific species. Some of these are ones that we have worked with ourselves and that are in commercial application. Modifications of it are in commercial application. We're not giving away any secrets. But others have just been data mined, again by Steve, successful diets that are in the literature. And then we also have another tab that companies are testing open formulas. And then if you go to evaluation, there's a page on ingredient evaluation, and this was really developed for the benefit of new ingredient suppliers, because they come to different researchers all the time, came to me, and they'd have 10 kilos of this new ingredient and said, well, I want to do a grow-out study with 7 different species. So then you have to kind of work through them, that's what you need to do first. And I want to thank all the feed companies this morning. They laid it up perfectly for me, talking about the kind of information that you need on new ingredients, including digestibility, what we call it, fecal quality, which we call waste management. But I had a slide that listed bullet points of each type of experiment that feed companies like to see new ingredient providers have available. And I guess a few people didn't think that worked very well, so F3 developed this flow chart, and it's basically the different types of experiments that feed companies would like to see. Of course, you start with nutritional composition, and then if it's you go into functionality testing, which I'm using that word as for what effect does the ingredient have on the extrusion process. Some ingredients are really, really sticky when they hydrate, and that increases energy costs. Others are very high in fat, and that ends up with a weak pellet. Palatability testing, what effect does the ingredient have on feed intake of the fish, if any. Digestibility testing, and that's if you're passing it all. Then you go up into grow-out studies. So we really recommend all these types of tests before you go into the grow-out study, where most people want to jump in. Also on each of those tabs on the website, there's a suggested protocol or procedures on how each of these studies should be conducted. And we have a fairly extensive digestibility database with over 140 entries with rainbow trout, and there is some hybrid striped bass and I think some Atlantic salmon. And we're looking at that database and trying to figure out how to make that more accessible. And then they're talking about, well, if we've got these protocols for each type of test, and here's solid waste management, which is our PC method of talking about fecal quality. I don't want to be asked what makes a good feces. It's kind of hard to explain. But anyway, if you get a whole bunch of experiments on different diets done the same way, then you'd have all these different databases. And some of the IT power we have here, that became developed into the aquafeed ingredient research engine. And we're going to let the IT person explain this. Tag teaming with Virgil. Here you go.
Yeah, so we do have the fire under development now, and again, coming soon, the public website. But we're basically, the idea is for these sort of 8 common experiments we would expect in the development of a new ingredient, assuming they follow essentially the standardized protocols that the Fin network has developed and is publishing openly. They'd be able to be put into essentially a common database that's publicly accessible, easily searchable. We'll have a sort of a review committee of people to, as test results come in, to sort of validate that we're getting good test results before they're published. And so we've got a few sort of preview screenshots. We hope to have something potentially within the next 2 to 4 weeks that we can sort of send out as more of an open beta to get feedback. So you would start with the idea that you could see all the different ingredients that we have experimental data on. Whether if it's companies providing those ingredients, they can include contact info, spec sheets, but our key interest is exposing what are their key characteristics. So if you're searching for a particular composition, your GMO, non-GMO, those sorts of things would all be searchable. So this sort of shows, you'd have a very easy to search list of ingredients, and then for any ingredient, you could pull up the fine detail, and that would include the experiment history that had been submitted. From there, you'd be able to drill into, again, these results. Initially, it'll be focused on the digestibility tests that Rick's, sort of all that digestibility data that Rick's bringing to the table. Anyone else willing to essentially work with us to donate, so to speak, other digestibility or other ingredient test data, we'd certainly work with you on how to sort of format it for the database. So from here, again, you'd be able to search by ingredients or a species that you're interested in, and then look at the experimental detail. Was there anything different about that experiment that was documented, or was it fully standardized? And then again, drilling down right into, in this case, the example is digestibility data. We'll also have it easy that once you sort of filtered for results or ingredients you're interested in, you'd have an export to spreadsheet or export to PDF, so that if you have your own system for formulating feeds, you'll be able to pull this in directly. And I think, yeah, so again, very quick preview at this point. We are close to having it up on the website, and we'll invite everyone's feedback and participation down the road.
Great. Thanks, Virgil. Another aspect or kind of bottleneck that we found in ingredient development is the production of small batch feeds. Where can you get 100 pounds made? Most feed companies, at least they tell me, they need a 3 to 5 ton minimum order, and if you only need 50 pounds, that's a little extra. So we listed, and we're hoping that the fin will have different nodes from around the country. We'll have America's fin, maybe an Indonesian fin, a China fin. But for the North America fin, we've listed out, well, I guess no, we've got Vietnam on here too, but we've listed out facilities and what type of facilities they are and what size batches they can make. And then there's contact information in there so that people can reach them. Okay. And this is the newest part that's been added to the fin project, and this is, we're calling F3 research, looking at fish meal and fish oil-free feeds. And the question was asked, well, what's holding up adoption of some of these species? And as you all saw Tuesday night at the fish restaurant, their rainbow trout has been commercialized and fish meal and fish oil-free for 7 years now. But people are still saying, oh no, trout needs fish meal. But once it's commercialized, there isn't much we could do. But the idea is to take a variety of different species, and all these species have been contracted for research in 2019 during the last 2 months of 2018, which was quite a feat, in which some of them are demonstration studies, such as the shrimp study that we're doing. It's underway in Vietnam right now, where we kind of know what's going to happen because we've got enough research experience that we're sure we can do an F3 diet. And we will be looking at the cost effectiveness of that as well. And we also have a barramundi, largemouth bass study underway at Prairie Aquatech in South Dakota, looking at fish meal and fish oil reduction and elimination. Alpha feeds from China, they were coming but then couldn't make it, and they've volunteered that when we prove on a small scale that these diets are feasible, they're going to do production scale studies for us. And if anyone else would like to participate in F3 research development studies, we'd be happy to work with you on that. And that's all there is. If there's any questions, we'd be happy to take them.